Hey, howdy ho, hello everybody. Featuring tissues again and pillow. There's actually it's a floral print pillow. There's these like pinkish white flowers. Anyway, hi. I just noticed that these glasses and that shirt matches Saturn. That pink and black scheme. So to I was gonna put the thing in the thumbnail. I forgot. Sorry. So today, I have a question for people who live productive lives. How do you make decisions? How? And I need to not allow this moment of deciding to stop me from doing the things that I need to do anyway, like updating my resume. I already did it. And my friend was like, your resume is a lot better now than it was before, and you can apply with it, sure. But you can make it better. Like if you want it to be a stellar resume, then like do some of this. And what was most interesting is so our typical interactions in the past have been him kind of sort of like downplaying me because of the traditional things that I don't have and experiences that I don't have because of the unconventionality, I guess, of the route in my path. That was my journey with academia. And so I usually get on the defensive, like, no, but like I've done this and I've done that. And I know that I haven't taken a traditional route, but because I have a less traditional route, it's given me the opportunities to expand in all of these ways that a lot of people may not necessarily have the chance to, or may not necessarily would have had the chance to. Um, and so, we were talking on the way back, and he said he didn't want to talk about it. I wanted to talk about it because, I mean, if he's going to be helping me, then I would then like appreciate the help, right? And he was like, well, when I did this thing, I wrote my resume like this. And so he asked me some questions and I answered them. And then it was like for the first time, he was like, oh, so you should say this. And I was like, but like, is that believable? Like, isn't that a little outlandish? And he's like, well, like, isn't that what you did? And I'm like, yeah, but like, if I wrote it down, like, who would believe me? I feel like it just looks crazy. And so for the first time, I feel like I was triggered in another way. But like, am I that good though? Like, not am I that good? Because again, it happened, and I did what I did, and I did it well. Especially concerning or considering the circumstances, I did it extremely well. I did it the best with the least, and having to do in some ways, in some cases, the most. Well, I guess personally, I didn't have to do the most, but the people that I supervised did more than everybody else. And so I had to be the person to like field those and manage those and assuage those sort of worries and concerns in a space where it couldn't have been made more fair, even though I felt like it could have been made more fair, right? It's like we could do some minor adjustment here and everything will work out better for. I mean, I guess it would work out better for us, but it would inconvenience someone else who it's literally in their route anyway. Anyway, so that happened, but I need not allow this space of deciding where I want to go with my life to stop me from at least finishing my resume and putting my resume in the places that I need to update it. Um, because that is something that I'd have to do regardless. Oh gosh. Mm. This is not what I wanted to say today. Oh goodness. Oh. And I think there was like a wasp out yesterday. Cause like I step out the house and there's something buzzing around my head and then it hits my forehead and I'm like, go away, please. And then it went over to my brother. He was like, ooh. I was like, what was it? He was like, it was a wasp. I said, a wasp. I swatted a wasp. Oh goodness. Ouch. Oh gosh. Oof. What's that thing about brightly colored insects being like more deadly, or brightly colored animals in general being more dangerous? But I guess that makes sense. It makes sense evolutionarily for a brightly colored animal or a brightly colored anything to be more dangerous because in the natural selection, right? If anything is brightly colored, it stands out more. So it's easier prey. And so it has to have some method of defending itself, right? And it feels like it's speaking of a subtle strength behind vulnerability or a certain protection for those who make themselves more vulnerable in certain spaces and service and in good service, right? When you make yourself more vulnerable, you attract certain things easier or you're easier to spot. But there's no need to worry because of whatever um, survival mechanics you also evolve with. It goes back to that Muriel card, right? The card about, the shield or the protection, but as you grow, it's also important to be more vulnerable. And so it's like the crab is inherently protected, so it doesn't have to do even more. It's already shelled, right? Not too many things. Not everything is going to break through the exterior of the crab. So at the very least. So when hornets build nests near the ground, a harsh winter is expected. When do hornets build nests though? So do hornets build nests in the fall then? And why would that be the case? When a hornet builds a nest near the ground, a harsh winter is to be expected. So, like, isn't it easier for snow to accumulate there? And heat rises. Do hornets like to be cold? I mean, hornets are cold blooded creatures. Because, like, heat rises and it would be closer to the snow. But I guess if it's like a blustery winter, then like it won't fall as high. Like there was a nest. I pulled up with my grandma one day. I was like, "What is that?" She's like, "Is that a nest?" I think there's a little nest in the yard turned over. No, I didn't see any like. Well, I also didn't pick it up. Any like eggs or anything. Like I didn't see any baby birds in it. So maybe they already moved the nest. It was extremely windy here recently, or for a few days. When hornets build nests near the ground, a harsh winter is expected. This is also Eid al-Fitr, begins at sundown today, May 12th. I don't think I'm right. I know it's Eid al-Fitr, maybe. I went to a neighborhood Eid in 2019 over the summer, right? Was I in Cary at that point? Because I feel like I was. So it was at the end of the summer, I believe. And we talked about like faith and what that means in context that wasn't locked to Islam. So it was a opportunity to sort of like find connections between people inside and outside of faith and like in spirituality or non-spiritual and just like questions. I enjoyed it so much. And I was like talking about everything I was going through and like that was the first time I talked about it with strangers. And maybe one of the first times I really talked about it outside of like my journey buddy, Emily, because like we were on our journeys, like we started together. We hit our darkest nights at the same time, and then we connected like a month after that when we were both on our journeys to start getting better and doing better. She was traveling the world. I was traveling my internal world. She's an Aries. I'm a Pisces. And it was a really good time. I was like, "Oh my gosh, a date and kisses on a Friday night? What?" Because, you break ooh, it's 12:34. You break the fast. They typically break the fast with, a date and water, and then they had Hershey's Kisses, so So let's see. When hornets build nests near the ground, a harsh winter is expected. But I wouldn't think that hornets could survive the winter. Is this all the way in spring? Hold up. It probably is. So this would be the time when hornets start building nests, probably, because this is where the entry is. But that would be so far away. Hold up. I also saw it was trending on Twitter the day before yesterday, I think, that if you find a dryer sheet in your mailbox, to basically leave it there because hornets or wasps, some of them build nests. You'll find a small nest in a mailbox. And if it's at the back of the mailbox, then the mail carrier will stick their hand in and then boom, there's a whole nest. So they stick the dryer sheet in there to discourage the creation of a nest, right? And I just came across that. When the weather begins to turn warmer in late March or April, she will emerge and go about the task of rebuilding a colony. The queen will build a paper nest and lay eggs, which turn into worker hornets. They will then take over the duties of nest building while the queen produces more hornets. So late March and April begins the paper nest, begins the building. And so in spring, there's already an indication for the winter. This is some like almost high priestess level. Honestly, what it's reminding me of, it's that this eclipse season that we're in, all of these stelliums that we're having, this energy that we're in, as the nodes shift into the last decan of Gemini and Sagittarius, as we're preparing for the Scorpio and Taurus axis. And there's this energy of like what we do now is really setting and building the foundation for what will come later. It's like we have an opportunity now, while in some areas of the world, like more and more people are getting vaccinated, right? So it's looking like the time of heavy restrictions is coming to a close. But before we attempt to go full back into whatever, before we forget everything that we've discovered now, let's set the foundation. And that energy came out before. It was like, I don't know what is about to happen, but it's important that we remember everything that we learned in the previous year and some months. It's important that we don't forget. I mean, if anything else, it will save us from a tower moment that comes to try to remind us. Also, what's interesting is, I guess it makes sense, but the queen is the one who starts building the nest. So before she can start building, or before she can start laying all the eggs, which is the foundation for the expansion of her sort of line, she has to go in and build the nest herself. And like I feel like I would never imagine a queen doing anything of the sort, right? Like maybe they lay the eggs first and then have them go and build a new nest and then she moves into the new nest and then they expand the nest. But she starts it. So this is also, it's almost the time where they're the most vulnerable Because if it's like if you see a nest this small and only one hornet, it's like if you take out the queen, you take out the whole line. You nip the problem in the bud. Then you don't have to worry about the hornets. I don't think it's necessarily to be that like aggressive. It's just the space of like this is the time where it's most vulnerable. And you would also think that they would be even more vulnerable when they're that close to the ground. I don't know who a hornet's natural predators are though. Because like if it was a bear and honey, then bears eat honey. So that's why bees probably build their nests in trees so that you don't have bears just and like make the bear work for it a little bit, right? Some bird species, the red-footed cannibafily, what is that? Cannibal fly, the red-footed cannibal fly. Okay. Hey Zelda, I'm doing pretty good. How are you? Bullfrogs, lizards, bats, spiders, badgers, hedgehogs. Okay. What are there? Hornets in Sonic? There might be hornets in Sonic in some of the Sonic games, maybe, which would make sense. They are the eagles of insects. It says gardeners should be glad to have a hornet nest nearby. Let's see. Hornets, gentle giants. I'm up for this. Let's change the perception. Let's change how we look at this. Because I see hornets and I'm like, oof, I'm like, I don't know about that one. A large hornet colony captures several kilos of mostly annoying or even harmful insects through the season. What's this say? Hornets are worthy of protection. There's the vulnerability. Oops. What is this? I accidentally opened it all the way up to December 10th when I was trying to pick it up. Let's see what December 10th is, because that's pretty close to the winter time. That's the first quarter moon. The moon travels along its elliptical orbit at 2,287 miles per hour on average. This reminds me of that joke. It's like, how do you organize a space party? You plan it or something like that. Because all the planets are there. And then Earth brought its moon, and nobody else brought their moons, and Earth also brought a satellite, because why not? This is where they're the most vulnerable, but it says that they're also worthy of protection. And it's like a lot of times we think of hornets, we probably think of them as like, uh, terrorizers or pests. Oh, yeah, I'm curious about this. I am so down for getting another image. If one considers the low mass of hornets' prey, such as flies, spiders, and wasps, it is clear that this amounts to a tremendous number of insects. Hornets catch only living animals of prey. Under no circumstances do they forage for carrion. At night, hornets catch many nocturnal insects, of which bats are the only other predator. Hornets are the top predators of the insect world, comparable with the birds of prey in the bird world. They are the eagles of insects. Gardeners should be glad to have a hornet's nest nearby. The main food of the hornets is approximately 90% flies and only occasionally bees. Bee scientists state that the effect of hornets on beehives is negligible. The daily catch from the beginning of June approximately is about 10 to 15 bees per worker because only some hornets go to hunt bees. At this time, a fully developed bee colony faces this predation with approximately 50,000 animals. If one considers the high laying rate of a queen bee, the number of bees emerging are in the region of 1,500 to 3,000 per day. Hence, the loss of bees is really relatively small for a healthy hive and no real threat. In addition, the bees killed at this time are not those which will go on to form the overwintering stock. Indeed, loss through weather and other causes, for example, pesticide, herbicides, varroa traffic, are likely to have much more effect. Some beekeepers even encourage hornets and erect a box near their hives because, as night active hunters, hornets reduce infestation of the more damaging wax moth. Additionally, hornets hold a type of peace near their nest. They don't seem to hunt in the immediate vicinity. A nest provides fascinating observation possibilities of these beautiful black yellow creatures, rewarding you for the decision to set up a hornet box. Okay. It cannot be pointed out often enough that hornets are extremely peaceful insects, highly rewarding to observe. These stately, large insects provide an amazing insight for nature lovers. So I'm thinking of wasps, right? Wasps are the ones I don't know what the difference between a wasp and a hornet is. And when you're looking at one, I don't know if somebody else is like, oh yeah. I honestly don't want to look at. I'll Google it. So hornets are like pretty peaceful, and it's almost like a hornet. It's an apex insect predator. It's an apex insect, and so there aren't too many other insects, or aren't too many things maybe that will mess with the hornet. And so, in its position of power in the top of the insect food chain, it maintains peace around its home. And maybe that's why it can afford the vulnerability, because it's powerful enough to like protect its own. And most of the other natural predators that it would have to worry about, they would find them high up in a tree anyway. And so maybe it's like if it is a harsh winter, if there's a blanket of snow on the ground, then it's easier prey if they're higher up in the tree for those that already fly and get them anyway. And nothing on the ground pretty much is gonna get to them except for a hedgehog. But hedgehogs don't climb trees, I don't think so. Hornets are peaceful. Well, let's go. I'm glad I read this because I was like, hornets, hornet. What? Oh no. Difference between wasp and hornet. There we go. Google is listening. The main difference between hornets and wasps, such as paper wasps and yellow jackets, is size, with hornets being more robust and larger in size by comparison. Additionally, hornets are social insects, whereas wasps can be social or solitary depending on the species. Oh, okay. So this says similar to wasps, hornets are smooth flying insects and more aggressive than traditional bees. Hornets can prove beneficial in that they eat other insects, but any benefits these pests might offer around your home are far outweighed by the risks. Do not attempt to deal with these pests on your own. Wait, are they the same? What makes a wasp a hornet? A little chubbier and larger than their svelts. Is that how you pronounce that word? Hey Siri, how do you pronounce SVELTE?
I found an answer. It's displayed on your iPhone.
Say it! Svelte. It looks like svelte. Hey Siri, define svelte.
Svelte means of a person, slender and elegant.
Oh, it is svelte. Okay. So they're a little chubbier, a little larger. It's almost like how honeybees are like kind of chunky, but they're pretty cute or like relatively harmless, unless you upset them or something, right? Okay. It looks like it might be size. And honestly, What it reminds me of, it's making me think of like going from like bees to wasps to hornets. It's a little bit, and I hope it's not disrespectful because I ain't trying to disrespect no goddesses. But it reminds me of like Inanna and Ishtar, and how Ishtar is the more heightened incarnate of Ishtar or Inanna. And when they swap between, it reminds me of the Heroes of Olympus series, when it's like in the Percy Jackson series, we're used to the Greek side of all the gods, but in the Heroes of Olympus, we introduce the Roman sides. The Knight of Cups just came out. I'm like, what is this? Hello? Hornets. Ace of Swords at the. Oh, okay. All right, I get it now. I was like, the Knight of Cups. Why is the Knight of Cups coming out for Hornets? I'm confused. Hello? Can someone help me, please? But in the Heroes of Olympus, we see the Roman counterparts of those very same gods. And so, depending on the name you call them, they'll sort of shift into that other sort of counterpart. One of the most, I don't want to say iconic, but noticeable would be the shift between Mars and Aries, because Mars is sort of venerated, right? Let's see. Let's ask Siri what this word means before I just use it. I'm pretty sure it means what I think it means. Hey Siri, define venerate.
Venerate means regard with great respect, revere.
Yeah, so Mars is venerated in Roman culture because they were, the empire expanding civilization that they were. But in the Greek side that honored and focused more on art and philosophy, Ares was kind of not given that same honor. But we have Athena, who is like, if we need to go to war, then she's the goddess of good war, rather than that Ares, like any war, starting a war just to have a war, right? And so it feels like the Hornet is the Ishtar and the Wasp is the Inanna, but with its increased size and power, it comes into more of a peace. Now, that may be counter the actual energy of that goddess, because I don't know if in her Ishtar form she actually does more. It sounded like she might. But it's like with more power comes more compassion, comes more patience, comes more of a need to control self in order to balance it out, to not cause drastic shifts in the natural world for an unworthy reason, right? It's not to overreact in a space, because an overreaction or any kind of reaction can lead to drastic changes. But if it's an overreaction, then it's like the extremes don't justify the means or whatever, right? And that whole thing yesterday, honestly, today when I was in the bathroom before I came on, it feels like more of a journey of like becoming an ascended master, or reaching that level, reaching an energy that more closely aligns to that of an ascended master on earth, with everything that was required, with all of those challenges. And then especially with some of those rewards, it's like excuse me, it's like, wait, like what's the reward? But then you look at some of the challenges and it's like, oh, okay, like whew. All right, well, so the card that came out for the Hornets is the Knight of Cups with the Ace of Swords. Under the Ace of Swords is the Five of Pentacles and the Five of Swords. It's like with this new information, with an openness outside of the realm of fear to discover the truth of the Hornet, now we can move forward in a way. It's like we can extend a certain piece to the Hornet that fear and misinformation or a lack of information prevented us from before. There's something about perceived danger from the space of fear. or perceived lack in the face of scarcity that keeps us actively working against the very peace that we wish to experience. Ace of Swords has kind of been featuring itself a lot lately, which I guess isn't surprising because there's a whole bunch of stuff sort of happening right now, right? And I guess this is why my intention shifted to the more after the healing, or what exists when we come into higher levels of healing, and when we come into higher levels of alignment and higher levels of maintaining that alignment, when we come into the capability and capacity to anchor some of these energies because of the consistency of our light, even in times of darkness. And like last year, I kept saying, like, when the world goes dark, shine brighter. It's like the world needs light now more than it ever did before. It's not necessarily easy. I don't know if it's meant to be. It's worth it for sure. Yeah. So when I first started this, I was like, ooh, I was like, oh gosh, like what is the Hornets? Oh no, thank you. But now with that information, I feel a lot better. And it's that something about how they hunt away from the home, something about how the area around a hornet's nest is generally peaceful. And so it's like if a hornet builds a nest like on your house, I guess depending on how large your house is, I don't know, because it may be on one side of the house and then they hunt on the other side. So it's like you may encounter a hornet in the area because that's where the nest is, but they're not going to be aggressive because that's where the nest is. It's actually the further you are away from the nest, the more likely it is that you'll encounter some kind of aggression. And honestly, for some reason, is bringing to mind the fire ants card that popped out when Miss Remy was doing the return. It's like we're returning to the room, and all of the ants were going towards the center. And it's like something about this, people would typically flee, or people would naturally sort of find themselves going away. But the real danger lies outside of it. It's just like the eye of a storm. It's the calmest in the middle, even though it's almost counterintuitive because you would think that, well, if it's this dangerous outside, it's probably even more dangerous inside. But it's like that's where the light is. There's been so much darkness swirling, so much fear swirling. And we do what we typically do, which is try to avoid it. So we medicate, we cope, we do whatever. But the real peace is found by going inside and finding the clearing, and then anchoring ourselves in that in a time that is probably going to be the most volatile. Hopefully, things don't get any more volatile than they have been, right? But it's almost like, if you can anchor yourself here, building a foundation in this energy is inherently going to be so much more stable and so much more strong, because when are we ever going to face challenge like this again? Again, like, I don't, anything could happen. So, but it's that, like, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball type of energy. So I'm actually going to end this here, and then I'm going to come back and pull some of these because I had a dream last night. I had a dream. All right. I hope you have a good whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. It seems like now is a time where kings and queens of spirit are born, made, where we decide. And in addition to that decision, we also put in the action to anchor that energy, to bring forth the shift. And whatever your challenge is, because again, with the back of the star card, and that's why I'm pulling these cards. I might pull the vice versa too. I should pull the back of the star card. But your higher self your future self, your ascended master self, like if you were to ascend to the level of an ascended master, if you were to be able to find the kindness and care and compassion within you and to strengthen your faith enough to have that more direct sort of communication and access to the divine in a way that influences not only your reality, but the reality of others around you. Like that was the aspect that was talking to the star, the back side of the star. And then the front side of the star is what you're facing. And it's giving you the opportunities and the obstacles to come into the healing that you need to overcome basically the things that prevent you from getting up there. That's why it can be so individual right now. And hey Mimi, yeah, I'm actually like shutting it down. um, but that's why it can be so challenging and so individual right now. Because when you get up there, who you are is like it's like there is a certain communion up here, but up here it feels like their different energies serve different roles or they operate in a different way. And it's for us to all discover our own unique way and to navigate our own challenges. And we do that by going into it instead of trying to run away from it. It's almost like, oh, what do you call them? No, not cootie catchers are the other things. Hold on, let me see what you call these things. One second. These finger traps, yeah. Oh wait, I don't want to buy it. I just wanted the picture. I just wanted the picture. Oh my gosh! I remember the catalogs for the Oriental Trading Company. I never bought anything, but I always wanted to. It reminds me of these finger traps, where it's like the more you pull away from it, the harder it is to escape it. It's only by going into it that you find that release. So shout out to Hornets apparently. Again, like I don't know how to tell the difference between a hornet and a wasp. And so but I'll do my best to carry this energy to all of God's creatures. Even if it's a wasp that might sting me. Maybe wasps are I feel like wasps are jerks though. Let's see. Before we end this, let's see. No, let's not, because it's not about the wasp right now. It's about the hornet. And this is nice and succinct where it is. See, like we don't have to put all of these extra perceptions and filters on top of something to know when it's safe to be vulnerable. Because in this vulnerability lies some inherent amount of protection. It's there. When you're that close to the eye of the storm, when you're that close to the hornet's nest, nothing is going to bother you because nothing wants to rouse the fury of the entire nest of hornets that's here. So you'll be fine. And apparently they're fairly peaceful creatures. Just don't aggravate, agitate, or endanger them. Don't make them feel threatened, and then they'll protect themselves like anybody, like you will. So, with all of that, again, I hope you have a good whatever whenever you see this, and I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that when you hear the call, you heed the call and do what you need to do to go to attain the heights that we have to attain and achieve to make manifest even more of that which dwells within the realm of potential and to, go the distance. And Hercules, Disney's Hercules, real life Hercules was kind of tragic. And yeah.